Your birthday is today, and somehow it feels like any other day. No spark, no countdown, no emotional build-up, just another morning that began and moved on. To some people, that seems sad, but psychology suggests it may reveal something deeper than indifference. Some people do not ignore their birthday because they hate themselves. They ignore it because they learned not to expect anything from it. Expectations are emotional investments, and when expectations repeatedly go unmet, the mind starts protecting itself by lowering them. What looks like emotional coldness is often emotional efficiency. The nervous system learns that hoping too much only creates unnecessary pain. So instead of excitement, they train themselves into neutrality, not because the day means nothing, but because disappointment once meant too much. This pattern often starts in childhood, not with one dramatic event, but with many small emotional lessons repeated over time. A child does not study love through theory. A child studies love through repetition, attention, and response. Did joy receive warmth? Did neediness receive comfort, irritation, or silence? Every child runs a quiet experiment. If I express desire, will connection come closer or move further away? That experiment shapes adult expectations more than most people realize, especially around days that are supposed to feel emotionally significant. Birthdays can become emotional mirrors. They reflect not just age, but old beliefs about worth, visibility, and care. For some people, birthdays once carried hope. Hope that this year attention might feel sincere, safe, or enough. When that hope is repeatedly underfed, the psyche adapts. It stops leaning toward the day before the day gets the chance to let them down. This is not always conscious. Most people can't point to the exact moment they stopped caring. They just know that celebration began to feel emotionally expensive, too much anticipation for too little nourishment. Over time, restraint starts to feel intelligent. You tell yourself it is easier not to care than to want and be unmet. This is where emotional conditioning enters the story. Conditioning is what happens when the body learns a rule before the mind can explain it. Maybe praise was inconsistent. Maybe affection arrived only when you were low maintenance, useful, or exceptionally composed. Then the nervous system draws a conclusion: don't need too much, and you'll stay safe. Birthdays challenge that rule because birthdays invite receiving, and receiving can feel strangely vulnerable to people trained to expect little. To receive well, you must believe attention is stable. You must trust that care does not come with pressure, debt, or sudden withdrawal. If early love felt conditional, birthdays can feel psychologically confusing. They promise warmth while quietly activating old caution. This is why some people say, "I don't really care about my birthday." Often what they mean is, "I learned not to build my heart around it." There's also pride involved. When you've adapted to self-sufficiency, depending on external acknowledgement can feel beneath your emotional code. You become the person who says, "It's fine," even when some quieter part of you once wanted to be noticed without asking. This does not mean the need vanished. It means the need became private. Private needs often get mistaken for absent needs, but many emotionally independent people feel deeply without performing depth outwardly. That's one of the biggest misunderstandings in psychology. Quiet people are often not empty. They are simply unrehearsed in asking. There's another layer too: identity. Some people become so used to being the observer that being centered feels unnatural. Birthdays place attention directly on the self, and for certain personalities, that spotlight feels less like warmth and more like exposure. especially if childhood taught you that visibility invites judgment. Then even positive attention can feel emotionally loud. So they minimize the day, not because they're broken, but because minimization has felt safer than longing. This is where many people become unfair to themselves. They call their adaptation emptiness, when it's actually intelligence shaped by history. Emotional independence is often misunderstood as damage, but in many cases, it's the architecture of survival built with remarkable precision. You learned to stabilize your own inner weather. You learned not to place your peace in the hands of uncertain responses. That adaptation deserves respect, but respect does not mean you must stay emotionally unreachable forever. Healing does not require becoming loud. It only asks whether you can let care arrive without immediately shrinking your need for it. Maybe maturity is not in pretending the day means nothing. Maybe maturity is in admitting it means something, without demanding a spectacle around it. A meaningful birthday does not have to be public. It can be a private acknowledgement that your life has weight. It can be the decision to stop abandoning your own milestones, even if nobody else ever learned how to honor them properly. Because your depth was never the problem. The problem was being deep in places that didn't know how to meet depth. And when that happens long enough, silence becomes a personality. Detachment becomes style, even when it began as protection. Still, your story does not have to end at adaptation. You are allowed to outgrow even the strategies that once saved you. So if today is your birthday and it feels like a normal day, don't judge yourself too quickly. Sometimes the quietest hearts carry the deepest history and the deepest capacity to heal.